Hey guys, backyard scrapping here. Today we're going to be, I'm going to go over a few things on some boards with you and talk about a little bit about taking, recovering stuff off of laptops. Laptops, there's not really a whole bunch of stuff on. I mean, you saw where I was, where we did that real dirty gold drop with the little connectors and stuff like this. But what I actually want to show you is a few things that are on laptops that are good. These are Sound Blaster live boards. Now these are very good boards to get because these boards are completely gold plated. Once you get, in fact, I've already got everything stripped off of them, and I'm going to take and strip the solder mask off of them. But these are completely gold plated. The whole board is plated gold. So those are good boards to hang on to, but they come out of your PCs, regular PCs, and then this is a couple remote boards or like cell phone boards. Possibly underneath these can be all solid gold plated. I don't think these two are, but they're mixed in because these are my high-end boards, or some of the high-end boards that I keep. This is mostly ribbon ends or off of printer cartridges, but this is the gold ribbon ends, and I just trim that all off and save it up until I get quite a bit of it. Believe it or not, this yields very well because it's very light. So when you finally get several ounces of this, you have quite a lot of plating on it. So that can be real good yielders. This is stuff basically like in the wintertime, if I get really bored or don't have anything to do, or it's too cold to do anything outside, I will sit, for example, if boards like this, if all the gold that's on them is this, I will sit and trim that out so that when I go to remove the gold from this, I'm not having to deal with all that extra copper that's in these boards. So you can see that this is all trimmed, and also there's no lead on this, so I don't have to worry about dealing with any lead, because I only took the parts that didn't have lead, and the stuff that does have lead I actually keep it in a separate bag. But what I want to talk about is laptop boards. The motherboards they've got a few chips on them that are good, and they've got some pins on them that are good. They have these, which are actually the battery connector pins, which I am keeping separate and saving up until I get a bunch of those to process all at once. But depending on the age of the laptop, once again, you've got some in here that are really heavy plated and some that are just barely flash plated off the newer stuff. This is mouse pads. Okay, the newer mouse pads, all this now, this is gold on these. But on the newer ones, your tracer, or where your finger part of your pad that you touch, on the new ones is all copper now. And some of these are going to be copper and just have these borders of gold on them. But some of your older mouse pads like these are the bad boys that you really want to look out for. And I'm going to show you why. If you see that, these are where your finger touches is all gold plating. So, and they are sticky. They're kind of, they've got these two I've got cleaned off, and this one I actually have the mask pretty much taken off the front. I don't know if you can see that, but they have this sticky stuff on them, so they are kind of a pain because you want to get that off. And I'm actually going to do some sodium hydroxide in warm water later and see if it'll remove this along with the solder mask, so I don't have to sit and scrape that off by hand. But some of these older mouse pads, are full gold plate, so that is a very high-end board. I'm thinking that this one probably is. It just looks like an older style. Now some of these may not be. They may be copper here, but there's still quite a bit of gold plating there. Another place to find some gold plating is on the backs and on the front. Sometimes these are full gold plate. Your little cameras, the little camera part board that's up in the very top of the laptop, a lot of times they're going to be gold plated like this, or show a lot of gold plating. Now, not all of them, once again, are going to be like that. There's some, you know, and the newer the material, you know, the worse it is. But if you get some medium to older laptops, a lot of times your camera boards are going to be gold plated. Sometimes you'll have little cards here and there that are in a laptop that have some decent gold plating on them. And what I'm going to actually do today is I'm going to take and strip all this stuff off of all these boards. I'm going to strip as much as I can off, the MLCCs, the little connectors and everything like that, and get them ready to demask them in some sodium hydroxide. So that's what we're going to be doing today, but I just wanted to point that out, you know, that this is stuff to look for on laptops. We already determined that these little tiny, you know, white, like these guys, this is probably what melts in the hydrochloric acid, but the pins that are in these little guys, you know, if they're gold plated, they're actually, you know, fairly high quality pins. So, I mean, they are worth keeping, and you know, yeah, you got to get a bunch of them, but you know, today we're harvesting what we can get our hands on. It's really nice when you can get a hold of old stuff, and you know that old stuff is going to have all this, you know, good gold and stuff on it. But you know, you got to take what you can get, and I would say definitely, if you're getting these, you know, laptops and stuff like that for free, harvest them, get the stuff off of them. You know, trim your boards when you have time, so that, you know, this is probably 10, 12, 14 ounces as opposed to being 10, 12 pounds of just boards, you know, like this, where I've trimmed off all this. Yes, it's a lot of work. Is it worth the time? Probably not. But when you go to process it, it is going to save you money on your acids, your materials, and stuff that you have to use to process. Also, you're not going to be dealing with big vats of acid and big vats of big whole boards. You know, the only time you really want to deal with a whole board like this is when you know the whole board is gold plated. Now, I know the Sound Blaster boards, when I get this solder mask stripped off, you're going to be looking at a board that looks like this all the way through. The whole board is going to be gold plated. So yeah, they're worth it to do that with. Anyhow, I am going to, like I said, I'm going to strip all this stuff off. I may, you know, do little excerpts here and there showing you what I'm doing, and then I'm going to try and demask all this stuff, and also put this in some sodium hydroxide to see if it'll eat this tacky glue stuff up that's on your mouse pad. But remember, excuse me, save these mouse pads and check them out on your laptops, because I mean, if you get a full, you know, that's a full gold plated board, and it's, you know, probably going to be decent gold on there, even though a lot of it is flash, and your cameras are going to have that nice plating. So we'll be back at you guys in just a bit when we start getting set up to strip this off. Okay guys, we are back. I have kind of divvied up, you know, and divided out my boards here, and I just want to show you real quick, like I showed you this bag that, you know, has all the cutoffs. Alright, there's no point in me trying to remove all this crap off of these two little boards, because there's a few MLCCs on this right in here, some little ones, and there's just this connector. So what we can actually do with this board is, instead of trying to just keep the whole board, I'm just going to cut, you know, I'm just going to trim the gold off, and we will put this in our little bag. There's one little resistor here, which, let me see, so take a knife or take whatever, but there's a little resistor there that we're going to knock off, and another little resistor there that we're going to knock off, and that is it. So there's a couple little gold dots right there, so we'll cut those off, and we'll keep those. Just throw them in here, and then just trash the rest of this, because we don't need it. There's no point in trying to, you know, put that whole big piece in the acid for just that little dot. So, and the same thing with this. So we'll just trim that off right there. And well, that way we're just ending up with this little piece of board that has flash plating on it. So there's that. See? That's trash. That can go in our board trash box or our board salvage box. And then we're going to cut this one off right there. I'm going to go ahead and cut it off right here, which is going to remove 2 or 3 of those resistors. We don't even have to scrape them off because we just cut them off. And we'll cut that one right there. And there's trash. And there. And, you know, granted, this takes a lot of time to do this. But I'm doing it right now because I'm kind of in between stuff and I got things I have to do today. So I can't really get too involved in doing anything. So I'm just going to show you, you know, this is stuff you can do dead of winter, you know, too cold to be outside, stuff like that. But see, we've eliminated all this board material by just snipping it off. So there's what we want, our gold-plated stuff. This is another one that's for a good example. It's got these tabs on it that are plated, so what we're going to do is we're just going to cut that off right there, which you can tell that's a cheaper board, but that is also some good plating on there. They're thick. So we're going to cut that off. We're going to cut that off. And then we're just going to take and cut this right off. Throw that little bit of plating in, throw that plating in. We got another little piece of plating right here. Throw that in, and there we go. That can go in the scrap box. So basically what we got off of these is just the plating, which is all we want. Now that'll go in this bag here. And when I get this bag full, I'll take it out and put it in some AP and process it out. And believe it or not, that will probably yield a decent amount of gold right there. You know, I mean, it's not going to be tons of gold, but it's still going to be a decent amount of gold because all that is trimmed really close. Alrighty, let me clean this up, and then we're going to start working on these other ones and stripping them off. So we'll be back at you in just a second. Okay guys, what I've got here is my board, you know, my thing that I use for stripping my boards. I actually just have a little piece of, this is actually off a scanner deck, but I'm just going to take, and I'm taking everything off of these, so we want it all off. So I will look at this stuff. I'm just going to basically scrape everything onto the board, and anything that's salvageable off of this stuff, you know, naturally we will pick out and keep. But what we want is we want all the crap off these boards as much as possible, so that when we put them into our sodium hydroxide, it's just pretty much having to deal with a little bit of tin, you know, and we may even wash these in HCl after the fact to make sure we get rid of some tin, or just leave them. But anyway, that's what I want. I want all the little resistors, all the little crappy things off of there, so that I'm just dealing with the board material. I don't want any of the tin and the solder, you know, as much as I can get off of that. And this is one of the ones that has the, you know, the sticky stuff on it. So we're going to try to do that in sodium hydroxide, get rid of that, and remove this solder mask, and that'll see, you know, then we'll see if this is a full plated board or not. And you can just pretty much feel it. If you feel a rough spot, you know, you still got a little resistor on there, but once they're fairly smooth, you know, that's what I want, just a cleaned off board. So in this stuff, like I said, I'll go through it. Any of these little guys that are gold plated, I will save. And if there's any chips that are any good, we'll save those too. So we're going to just continue doing this. And I'll get back at you in a little bit, because this is going to be very repetitious, and there's no need in you sitting here and watching me do the same thing over and over and over. So we can see right there. And like I said, I'll get back at you in a bit. Okay guys, we have finished up our mouse pads. I think we're actually going to do pretty good. I think several of these are going to end up being full plate, you know, like these guys on the bottom. So I don't think these are. I think these are just going to be spot plating. These are off of newer ones. But I think a lot of these, I think that's a newer one, but I think a lot of these, like these, are going to be full plate or close to it. Another thing, these little guys that have this, they all have this little black kind of center. It's almost like an IC chip. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, underneath that black is gold bond wires. But I don't think sulfuric acid will go after that. I think these have to be processed a different way. But anyway, so this is our mouse pads. They are ready to go into our caustic soda bath to remove the solder mask and see just exactly how much gold plating we have. Being that I'm doing this right now, I'm going to, you know, put those Sound Blaster cards in it too. Next thing we're going to do is finish up these little guys and these two things here and this other weird mouse pad, but I believe that's a full plate as well. And we are going to, I don't think these are, and I don't know if these are off of, I think this is off of some kind of a, yeah, this board was actually cut probably to fit in a package. I really don't know. That looks kind of like an LCD board of some kind, an older one. It also has that like diode here, but we're going to finish stripping the rest of this stuff off and getting it ready for our caustic soda bath or sodium hydroxide bath or whatever you want to call it. So we'll be back at you in a few minutes. I just want to show you we did get a few flat packs off of that. We got a few gold connectors off of that, those little rich ones, and we got a little bit of MLCCs off of it, which shortly we're going to do a test on these MLCCs because I am reading so much controversy on them. Everything I read about them, some people say they're good, some people say they're no good anymore, that only these particular ones are good, and it's impossible to tell. Only the magnetic, non-magnetic ones are good. So I've got a bunch of MLCCs. I mean, there's probably 100,000 in there the size of a sugar grain in just this little bottle. And I've got all of these, and I've got these, and I've got these. And I mean, these are all been picked off boards by me. So you can imagine the hours that's been spent picking these MLCCs off. So we are shortly going to do a test on those as well to see if I want to make sure I'm not wasting my time doing that, because there's a lot of people saying that, you know, the new ones are just copper and nickel and there's no silver and no palladium in them. And these are actually the ones off of processors, and I'm more curious about these guys than anything, because you would think if any of them are going to have precious metal in them, it would be the ones that are on processors. But anyway, that's another video for another time. But we're going to finish this stuff up, and then we're going to go do a sodium hydroxide bath, and we're going to see if we can get this solder mask off of our boards and see how many full plate boards we got. So we'll be back at you in just a bit. Okay guys, we finished stripping all these off, so here are the boards that we are going to be demasking with sodium hydroxide. That's the little bit of chips and stuff that was salvageable that we kept off of it, and pins. But I mean, there's not a whole lot here, but a lot of these should be full gold plate. We will know as soon as we strip them off. So I will get back at you when we get outside and get started on this. So we'll be back at you in just a minute. Well guys, I'm back in the same spot. Apparently my glass dish that I do this in has a crack in it, so I may end up just calling this video right here at this part, and then we'll do a part 2 when I actually can't get out right now. That's why I was doing this, because I can't get too involved with anything. So when I can run to the thrift store and get another dish, I will do that, and then we will pick up right here where we left off, moving on outside to take the solder mask off of this stuff. So We will see you all in the next video.